Rev up your engines! Here we go, the last of the great GM pickup trucks, the last of the 80s. Technically this is a 1990, but it was made in the end of 1989, so it's still an 80s pickup truck. And to make a long story short, the guy got a fantastic deal. He only had to pay $2,700 on it because the third owner was paying a note, and he was stuck, and the guy said, hey, if I pay off the rest of your note, will you give it to me? So he did. So he got this nice looking truck for $2,700, and you can't argue that. Now you're always taking something, a gamble buying a truck this old, 220,000 miles on it. I do have to say, the interior is immaculate. It's almost like a new car. Man, this thing was taken care of. There's no arguing that. But the first thing you want to do is road test it. Transmissions are probably the weakest link, so we'll start it up. Starts right up with that big V8, and we'll back it up. No backup camera on this baby. Now realize reverse is off in the first gear to go out, so make sure it backs up good. In this case, it backs up fine. So nice truck, high up in here. Shift's really smooth so far. And even though it's got 220,000 miles, I don't hear a bunch of hydraulic lifters tapping. So this engine's been taken care of. It's not just the excellent seats that were taken care of. In this case, the whole truck's been taken care of. Now, sad but true, the AC doesn't work anymore. The system has leaks, which you're gonna find in an old truck like this. You might put a lot of money into AC in an old truck. Windows are cheap and easy, roll them down. Now you might say, what the heck, this thing only goes 85 miles an hour. Well, that's because it was built in 1989. It'll go a lot faster than that, but that's what they made the speedometers do by law, to try to slow people down. So they had to guess if they went over 85 miles an hour. This thing will go a lot faster than 85. But let's see what this old engine still has. We'll stop it and step on the gas. Still got plenty of horsepower left, spinning those wheels. This baby does not have traction control. It just goes. But even when we're taking off hard, downshift's good, offshift's good, maybe a tiny bump, but with all that mileage, that's to be expected. It still handles good, has plenty of power. Bearings aren't making any noises, front or back, they're quiet. I gotta say, this guy got his money's worth buying this truck this cheap. This V8 engine can last a long time. And speaking of it, let's take a look at it. But before we do that, it still tracks good. It's not pulling to one side or the other. The suspension's in pretty good shape for a truck this old. So let's look under the hood. It's a 5-liter V8 engine. These are virtually indestructible engines if you keep coolant in them and oil in the engine. They're pushrod engines. Simple technology. But being a 90, even though it was made in 89, it's got throttle body fuel injection. So this is a fuel injected car. You're gonna get a lot better gas mileage with this baby than you're gonna get with one that's got a 4-barrel carburetor on it. A lot better. If it runs as good as this, and see, they're a lot simpler than the modern fuel injection systems. They're throttle body. Inside, okay. See the system? It's only got 2 fuel injectors. One here for that bank and one here. They're very easy to just unscrew and replace. So you got 2 fuel injectors. They're so easy to change. They're readily available. You can easily swap them out by yourself with simple hand tools, and they're pretty decent systems when they're working. A lot of guys are wrong. They'll buy a truck like this, they'll rip it all off to put on a carburetor. Maybe because they just understand carburetors and nothing else. But this is a better system. I would leave it on because it's not hard to work on. You only got 2 injectors, not 8. You gotta take a bunch of stuff off. No, take the air filter off. There it is. You can take it off, put it on. Just do it on a cold engine so you don't start a fire. Do it first thing in the morning before you start the thing up. It's not hard to work on these. And of course, parts are readily available. Here's an alternator. This is an AutoZone alternator somebody put on. Brake master cylinders. All that stuff's easy to get. Now, the one thing you always have to look for in these old trucks is look for rust. They could be rust buckets. These are not the unibody crap that a lot of stuff is made on. Take the new Ford Maverick truck. It's not a truck. It's unibody. It doesn't have a frame. Doesn't have a real solid frame like this does. This thing obviously didn't find much of its life any real rust in place because these will all rusted to real well. You can see they're not rusted at all. Probably been a Southern vehicle its whole life. The back, still got a spare tire. Here's the frame again, solid as can be. It's had upgraded shocks put on, solid rear end, no leaking at any of the wheels, showing brake problems. And look at this. They used to know how to make chrome plating. It's dirty, but you can polish it up. You can see here, they didn't chrome plate the latch that well. The rear tailgate, the chrome's coming off. It's not rusting underneath, it's just plated. The doors, make sure they're not hanging, because a lot of times they'll rot right on this end where the hinge is, and then they won't close. But this, that is one solid truck. And of course, be leery of guys who do crazy modifications. This one's still pretty much stock. It doesn't have fancy headers. It's got the stock exhaust system. The present owner told me about the previous owner who was kind of going through his middle-age crisis. And he was talking about blacking it out, putting headers on it, souping up the engine, putting a racing transmission in. You can do whatever you want. But this is a good, solid work truck the way that it is. And the guy who owns it now has a good transportation truck, which is what it is. You can tow quite a bit on one of these. They do stick. And you can see, they did a good job on the bed liner. It's still in one piece, got a nice, big, deep bed on it. And even when you close this baby's heavy. This is no lightweight tailgate. The sound of solidity. This one, built in the late 80s, definitely was the heartbeat of America. Unlike some of the modern ones that are more like heart attacks as they age. This baby was solid built. It doesn't have one of those chintzy rear end differentials that was made in Mexico. I would have no qualms of jumping in this thing and driving from Tennessee to California and back. I just have to bring a reasonable amount of money for gasoline. And I'd have to drive through the desert at night because the AC doesn't work anymore. But if you run all your checks, look for rust, make sure it's shifting good, not leaking oil all over the place, you find a truck like this for $2,700, you better hurry up and buy it before somebody else beats you to it. This one even came with the original owner's manual. Since they were simpler, there aren't that many pages. It's 32 pages long. I've seen modern cars, just the infotainment system, it's more than 32 pages long to try to tell you how to use the stupid thing. Now, you may not want to go back to the 1980s for those crazy hairstyles with all the perms, but there's nothing wrong with going back to an 80s Chevy pickup truck. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Well, it looks like self-driving Ford vehicles might deliver your next Walmart order. Ford has partnership with the tech company Argo AI, artificial intelligence, right? And they're going to kick this off experimentally in Austin, Miami, and Washington, D.C. Now, of course, they're starting to define service areas, so the computer mapping is all in the self-driving Ford, so there's no big surprises going on. Now, it's called Argo Self-Driving Systems. Now, Walmart wants to try it out because they want to try out same-day and next-day delivery like Amazon. They want to make it their delivery to reach that. Of course, they're competing with Amazon. Walmart was the huge box company, and now the boxes are getting out of the box, so they're trying to join in that too. Tried this before. In 2017, they tried Domino's to test out driverless pizza deliveries. Obviously, it didn't work out too well. I've never seen them deliver around any place I was. Now, the Domino car still had a Ford employee inside to watch. Now, their new partnership with Argo and Walmart with Ford, they want to use autonomy for the test, but they still have to have a person in the car because this is a test after all. And of course, Walmart, hey, they don't put all their eggs in one basket. If you follow the news at all, they've been trying out GM's Cruise self-driving branch and also had a program with Neuro, their driving system. You might see some of those ads on TV with the Neuro and the Nerd thing, that crazy stuff that they have. So, maybe you're going to have a Ford deliver your Walmart deliveries to your house. In Austin, Miami, or Washington, D.C., within a delimited area. Kaizen says, is Loctite or similar glues necessary? Are they necessary for bolts or waste of money? Or is torquing to spec sufficient? Things are made to be torqued to a certain specifications, right? But some things require Loctite. If you look at a lot of late model Fords, you ever do a brake job, when you take the caliper bolts off, you'll see there's Loctite on them because they do not want the bolts coming off on your brake system because there's vibration, all that pressure, all that heat. You don't want the brakes to fall off and get killed. So those are built with Loctite on them. Some specifications need Loctite. I used to have English motorcycles, the old ones. I got a new one now. It's different, but the old one shook like mad. And sometimes even Loctite wasn't good enough. So what you would do would be you drill a hole in the bolt, then you put mechanics wire and you twist it around and then tie it on. So you had an actual stainless steel wire drilled through the nut and bolt so it can't come off. Unless you take the wire off, right? It can go pretty far sometimes, but on cars, you don't have to go that far. But there are some things, like bolt calipers for your brakes, that really are supposed to have Loctite on them. So, for most things, you don't really need it. But if you got a vibrating part, yes. And especially if it ever came with one, put some back on. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.